Order, please. We'll now begin with the daily routine, beginning with presenting and reading of petitions. Presenting reports of committees. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as Chair of the Law Amendments Committee, I am directed to report that the committee has met and considered the following bills. Bill number 72, an act to reform the administration of the public education system. The committee recommends these bills to the favourable consideration of the House with amendments.
Order that these bills be referred to the Committee of the Whole House on Bills. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as Chair of the Committee on Law Amendments, I'm directed to report that the committee has met and considered the following bills. Bill number 70, an act to amend Chapter 1 of the Acts of 2003, the Apprenticeship and Trades Qualification Act. The committee recommends these bills to the favourable consideration of the House without amendments.
Order that this bill be referred to the Committee of the Whole House on Bills. We'll now move on to tabling reports, regulations, and other papers. Statements by ministers. Government notices of motion. The Honourable Minister of Communities, Culture and Heritage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I hereby give notice on a future day I shall move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas on March the 4th, 2018, the 90th Academy Awards ceremony, also known as the Oscars, was held in Hollywood, California, to recognize excellence in cinematic achievement. And whereas Shane Vio, a set director and native of Dartmouth, won the Oscar for Best Production Design for The Shape of Water alongside fellow Canadians Paul Austerberry and Jeffrey A. Melvin. And whereas through this remarkable achievement on the world stage, Nova Scotian Academy Award winner Shane Vio has brought great credit to the province of Nova Scotia while highlighting the incredible level of talent within our artistic community. Therefore, be it resolved that members of the House of Assembly acknowledge to Academy Award-winning set director Shane Vio for his Best Production Design win for achieving excellence in the field of cinema and for once again displaying the world-class artistic talent that we have within our province. Mr. Speaker, I ask for waiver of notice and passage without debate. There has been a request for waiver. Is it agreed? It is agreed. Would all those in favour of the motion please say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. We'll now move on to introduction of bills. Notices of motion. Statements by members. The Honourable Member for Cole Harbour Eastern Passage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I would rise to welcome Mr. Pat Savage, who is the future principal of Island View High School in Eastern Passage. I would also like to recognize the Island View High School Enhancement Committee for all of their efforts, as well as the more than 150 parents and students who attended a recent town hall meeting to discuss the activities and future plans for the new high school. The hard work of the Island View High School Enhancement Committee will include many fundraisers in an effort to attain items for the new high school, like a scoreboard for the physical education department, music stands for the fine arts department, and a billboard sign for the outside of the school. Mr. Speaker, I ask all the MLAs to join me in a warm welcome to Mr. Pat Savage, the Island View High School principal, and to thank the Island View High School Enhancement Committee for all of their past and future work. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Victoria the Lakes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to stand in my place today to recognize the accomplishments of Peter Campbell of Bedeck. On the weekend of February 9th, Peter finished T15 at the PGA Tour China Q School in Haikou, China. This status will gain him entry to all events on the 14-event tour. Well known for his success in golf, not only in Canada but beyond, it was Peter's Chinese heritage that sent him overseas on his golfing experience, where he joins his cousin, Jessica Wong, also of Bedeck, who is well known for her hockey skills and plays with the Cunlin Red Stars in the Canadian Women's Hockey League. I ask all members of the House to join me in recognizing the accomplishments of Peter Campbell and wish him well in the PGA Tour in Chengdu, China, beginning in early March. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Halifax Needham.
Speaker, when I was a journalist, my favourite kind of story went like this. A person working within a system insisted on doing something new, something innovative to make it better. In about 2009, a dear friend who was born with a rare genetic condition told me that for the first time in her life, she was getting great medical care. She has issues with her eyes and issues with her heart and other issues, all because of a connective tissue disorder. And a cardiologist had pulled together different specialists and other health professionals to do integrated collaborative care for people like her. What a great story, I thought. I showed up with my audio recorder and met Dr. Gabrielle Horn, who at that point was already about 5 years into her 14-year struggle against bullies and against the Nova Scotia Health Authority. Today, I want to simply acknowledge how long and how wrong that was. And now that the final appeal, vindicating her fully, is done, I want to also express my appreciation to her for, despite all, continuing her career and her innovation here in Nova Scotia. Thank you.
The honourable member for Halifax Armdale.
Mr. Speaker, last month I had the distinct privilege of joining the St. Mary's University Bangladeshi Students Association for their 4th annual Bangladeshi Night. Gathering in the McNally Auditorium, guests were treated to a truly unique evening celebrating the beauty and traditions of Bangladeshi culture. The food was delicious, the hospitality warm, musical performances lively and memorable. It was a treat to see many attendees donning dresses, sarongs, and traditional garments in bold and beautiful colors. The popular event sold out this year, and I was glad to see the university president and a number of its vice presidents joining in the evening's festivities. I'd like to congratulate organizers Ayat Abudali and Muhammad Ashik for putting together a wonderful showcase of their proud Bangladeshi culture and thank them for their kind invitation to take part. Thank you.
The honourable member for Pictou West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in a few days, on March 8th, the world comes together to celebrate International Women's Day. In 1917, federal authorities first granted a limited female franchise, with just over a century ago. I celebrate female trailblazers in Canadian politics such as Agnes MacPhail and Martha Black, who paved the way for women like myself and others to serve their nation through participating in democracy, representing their communities, and building a better Canada. I am proud that we are advancing in this legislature towards gender parity, but there is still much work to be done. I strongly encourage women to become active outside of their traditional roles in society. Our province needs you to add your strength, your knowledge, and your voice to the important conversations we are having. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for King South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the remarkable contributions that Wolfville resident Hubert Sullivan has made to the sport of stick curling in Nova Scotia. Stick curling removes some of the barriers to participate in curling faced by older or physically disabled individuals by requiring the participants to deliver the stone using a stick from a standing or seated position and thereby reducing the amount of sweeping. Hubert has worked diligently over the years to introduce and to promote the sport in Nova Scotia, and at 92 years of age, he remains a passionate stick curler, participant and proponent. He was recently honoured by the Nova Scotia Curling Association for the important leadership role that he has played in growing stick curling in our province. Please join with me in saluting Hubert Sullivan for his commitment to the sport of stick curling and to creating opportunities for all Nova Scotians to engage in an active lifestyle. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Dartmouth East.
Mr. Speaker, music education can be an amazing supplement to classroom learning, helping develop well-rounded students. The All-City Music Program, through the Halifax Regional School Board, offers some amazing music programming to students across HRM. The Dartmouth All-City Music Centre offers bands, choirs, and orchestral strings to HRSB students, both at schools and at the Music Centre. Some of the higher level classes can even be counted as high school credits. The Music Centre is an amazing addition to any community. I'm lucky to have it just a short walk from my constituency office. I only wish it was a little closer so I could have some background music while I'm working. So thank you to the Dartmouth All-City Music Centre for your many years of musical education. I hope you are part of our community for many more years to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Halifax Needham.
Mr. Speaker, I met with a teacher last night just to have a bit of a conversation before law amendments today. And one quote from our conversation has sort of stayed with me. She said she never felt like her principal was the boss. She felt like her principal was her supporter, her champion, her leader, but not the boss. And today I heard many different speakers reflect on the strengths of the collegial model in education versus a management model where administrators are indeed educational leaders, where they don't seek to control but to support and provide mentorship and protection from unnecessary distraction, maybe even sometimes inspiration, but they don't seek to control or to discipline or to order. It strikes me as the difference between authoritative and authoritarian parenting, and it strikes me that in this chamber we could really learn from teachers offering leadership through that collegial model. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lunenburg West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Western Riptide Pee Wee girls hockey team had the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play in a tournament in Ottawa as part of the Canada 150 activities. After submitting an amazing video, the team was one of 2 successful winners from Nova Scotia and made the journey to Ottawa just after Christmas. This skilled group of young hockey players represented their association and province well, winning several of their games, taking them all the way to the semifinals. Much of the costs were covered to take part in this tournament, but hockey parents went to work right away to fundraise the additional expenses, successfully raising money for chaperones to attend. Congratulations to the Western Riptide Pee Wee girls hockey for winning this amazing trip and representing their community and province so well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Inverness.
Mr. Speaker, St. Joseph's Convent and Renewal Centre in Mabel will be closing this fall. The convent was home to the Sisters of the Congregation of Notre Dame and 131 years of charitable service. Their founder, St. Marguerite Bourgeois, gave her life to the education of young women, the poor, and First Nations people. In much the same way, the sisters who served in Mabel operated a school and a retreat centre for spiritual renewal. While religious orders were mostly cloistered in the 1600s, St. Marguerite was driven to serve amongst the people of her community, and her community had no boundaries. People on the western side of Cape Breton and across our province have felt the impact of St. Joseph's Convent on their lives. The outreach of the sisters has caused people to think more deeply about life and our purpose. In a world where we become busy and face the distractions of worldly needs or personal satisfaction, the Renewal Centre helped people to find a home within themselves, focused on a deeper love for those around them. Let us not forget the charity of the Sisters of the Congregation of Notre Dame in Mabou, and may the flame of goodness they inspired in others forever burn brightly.
The honourable member for Truro, Bible Hill, Millbrook, Salmon River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to congratulate Jeff Goodspeed and Augusto and Claral Enriquez for a successful Nova Scotia Community College Doing Business in Cuba mini-summit conference, which took place this afternoon at the NSCC. And I was very pleased and proud to be the moderator of that business summit. We had many different Cuban representatives there. Maria Bilbao Diaz, the Cuban-Canadian Consul General, Celia Labora, the Director of International Relations with the Chamber of Commerce of Havana, Hilda Rosa Santiazban, the President of the Holguin Chamber of Commerce, and also Milagros Carida Perez Pravia, the Vice President of the University of Holguin. We had several other business people from Halifax also represented there, and it was a very successful turnout. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Bedford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to share a bit about a notable Bedford volunteer. Diane Urquhart is deeply involved in activities at St. Ignatius Catholic Church. She's served as communication chairperson for the Catholic Women's League and spends many hours at her computer crafting the quarter's CWL bulletin and keeping members up to date. Diane has also been a volunteer supporter for the Alpha program and a supporter of Come Share the Wine. She spends many of her free hours in the parish kitchen with these two programs. Diane's quiet, efficient, pleasant demeanour makes everyone comfortable, so it's no surprise that in 2017 she was honoured by the CWL for her volunteer work. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to add my thanks to Diane for her dedication.
The honourable member for Queens Shelburne.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise this evening to recognize Jennifer Krause from Queens County, the lead curler for Marianne Arsenault's Dartmouth Curling Club team. The team represented Nova Scotia at the 2018 Scotties Tournament of Hearts in Penticton, British Columbia. Jennifer started curling at the age of 13. Her dedication to the sport and all that it requires to compete at such a high level has earned her a long and successful curling career. Marianne, Jennifer, and their teammates Jennifer Baxter and Christine Black did Nova Scotia proud by finishing the champion pool at 9-2, winning their last 8 games. They came home with bronze medals from the Scotties after being defeated by the wildcard team in the semi-final. Mr. Speaker, we recognize these dedicated athletes and send our congratulations to Jennifer and her teammates on their achievements. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Berwick native Dr. Rebecca Daniels and her husband, Dr. Andrew McEwen, on the opening of the Berwick Chiropractic Health and Wellness Centre on the 5th of February. A husband and wife team and co-owners of the newly established practice, Dr. McEwen and Dr. Daniels, bring a combined 8 years of chiropractic experience to the area. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the province of Nova Scotia, I would like to welcome Dr. Rebecca Daniels back to the beautiful town of Berwick, offer my best wishes for success to her and her partner, Dr. Andrew McEwen, along with the rest of the team at the Berwick Chiropractic Health and Wellness Centre as they bring their skills and expertise to the Berwick area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Pictou Centre.
Mr. Speaker, a talented point guard from the North Nova Education Centre will suit up for the St. FX women's basketball squad for the 2018-19 season. Lucia McKay of New Glasgow has played both basketball and soccer for the past 4 years with the Griffins. McKay has been on the scouting list of several AUS basketball programs. She has accumulated a wealth of experience playing basketball at national competitions and with the 2017 Canada Games team that competed in Manitoba. Lucia has also represented Nova Scotia on under 14, under 15, under 17 provincial teams. McKay is very excited to have the opportunity to compete at the university level, especially at St. FX, which is very close to her hometown. I wish Lucia great success as she continues her academic and sports career at the next level. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Truro, Bible Hill, Millbrook, Salmon River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tanya Chadrawi is the engaging host and producer of Eastlink TV's Small Talk, Big Ideas. A proud Nova Scotian, Tanya is inspired by the people who impact our communities in a positive way, from volunteers and creators of social enterprise companies to political leaders. Recognizing it takes heart, generosity, and creativity, as well as savvy business and political skills to build successful endeavors, Tanya created a show to highlight these stories. Hence, Small Talk, Big Ideas was born. Now, in pre-production for her 3rd season with Eastlink, I look forward to watching Tanya's creative journey unfold as she builds a media company of her own that continues to tell our stories. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Hants West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise this evening to recognize a gentleman by the name of Mr. David Coombs. David Coombs passed away on March the 2nd. Until the time of his death, David had been the manager of the Hants County Exhibition for nearly 53 years, as well as involved with the Atlantic Winter Fair in the time that it ran. David is a person who's been well known across the country, not only here in Nova Scotia, but across the country, and has won multiple awards, including the National Fair Manager, and he was inducted into the, it's called the Canadian Exhibition Hall of Fame some years ago as well. And I want to pass on our sincere condolences to his wife Frances, his daughters Lisa and Jennifer, and thank them for all of David's service to the agricultural sector in this province and across our great country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kings North.
Mr. Speaker, a former segregated school in rural Kings County will soon be transformed into an educational tourism destination. Mr. Speaker, volunteer and Order of Nova Scotia recipient Geraldine Browning worked tirelessly to advocate for the African Nova Scotian community in Gibson Woods. It is because of her efforts and the efforts of her team that the entire region will benefit. The historical setting of the Gibson Woods United Baptist Church will be transformed into a tourist destination for visitors and residents alike. Mr. Speaker, I congratulate Geraldine Browning and the good Gibson Woods United Baptist Church for on this new chapter in its history.
The honourable member for Preston Dartmouth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to recognize Steve Giles, former Arenda Canoe Club paddler, who won a bronze medal in the 2000 Olympics in Sydney, Australia. He was recently recognized with a ranking of #9 in Nova Scotia Sports Hall of Fame, the top 15 poll for his many athletic achievements. He has served as a role model for the athletes of the Arenda Canoe Club and indeed for the world. I applaud and congratulate Steve Giles for his many significant achievements and for serving as a wonderful role model for young people of Nova Scotia.
The honourable member for Sydney River Myra Lewisburg.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Ms. Pamela Lejeune, formerly from Marion Bridge. She was recently named the top para-female athlete of the year by Athletics Nova Scotia at their annual general meeting here in Halifax. Pamela, who now lives and trains out of Halifax, won gold in both the F53 discus and shot put at the 2017 World Para-Athletics Grand Prix in Italy in May, and the 2016 Paralympic also placed 5th in the shot put at the 2017 World Paralympics Championship in London, England. Mr. Speaker, I stand today to congratulate Pamela Lejeune on receiving these awards. It was very well deserved. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Hants East.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, some people are inspired by childhood memories so vivid that they are driven to create the experience for others. Pam McNeil is one of those people. Guided by memories of her grandparents who home prepared every meal using vegetables and fruits from the garden, Pam launched the shop, the Cup of Soul Cafe, in 2009 in Elmsdale. Just like her grandparents, she uses local ingredients to produce breads, treats, soups, salads, and sandwiches. The popularity of the cafe soon exceeded its space, and Pam relocated to a restored Century home, adding not just size but gracious ambiance. The menu offers food for the body, the decors, food for the soul. Paintings by local artists fill the walls. The Cup of Soul hosts musicians, networking groups, healthy eating demos, and a consistent flow of patrons enjoying the ambience and camaraderie that a small local cafe can invoke. We would like to express our appreciation to Pam for her spirit and for making East Hants even better with her nutritious offerings and totally enjoyable venue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Colchester Musquodoboit Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Minor hockey is now drawing to a close in this province, and there are many teams that have competed. I do speak from first-hand knowledge. My grandson of 10 has been Sydney to Yarmouth playing hockey over the last few months, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank all the parents who have sacrificed a great deal in time and money to give these children the experience of being able to compete and to grow. And I also want to thank the coaches. They have been great with these kids. They have also spent their time and money in taking them everywhere, learning them fairness, learning them how to lose, and also to be team players. I just want to offer my thanks on behalf of all of us to minor hockey and all the parents and coaches who take part. Thank you.
The honourable member for Chester St. Margaret's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize and congratulate Aaron Broom, a young resident of the community of Chester Grant in the beautiful constituency of Chester St. Margaret's. Aaron is one of 2 Nova Scotia athletes selected by Hockey Nova Scotia to attend the International Ice Hockey Federation Global Girls Game being played this March. The Global Girls Game is a worldwide celebration of female hockey, and the Ontario Women's Hockey Association invited 2 players from each Hockey Canada branch to be part of the event. Aaron applied via a competitive application process and was chosen by Hockey Nova Scotia. The program showcases 40 Bantam A-level hockey players in the final game of a game which started in New Zealand and travels across the world. Last year, there were 38 games played over 2 days, with the final game being played in Canada. The Canadian segment of the Global Girls Game will take place on Sunday, March 11th at the Iceland Arena in Mississauga. Thank you.
The honourable member for Sackville-Beaverbank.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Today I'd like to congratulate Mrs. Lynch's grade 5 class at Sackville Heights Elementary School on bringing in the most items during the recent school-wide food drive. Mrs. Lynch's grade 5 students brought in 163 items as a whole Sackville Heights Elementary School. The students and teachers donated a total of 886 items for Beacon House, our local food bank. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank all those who helped participate in making this food drive a great success.
The honourable member for Lunenburg.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to congratulate Madison Beck of Lunenburg, who was selected as goalie for Team Atlantic at the 2017 Canadian Women's Under-18 Hockey Championships. The National Under-18 Championships, which took place from November 1st to 5th in Quebec, is the most competitive hockey tournament for players under 18. Madison is a driven goalie who grew up on the South Shore playing Adam and Pee Wee AAA hockey. She has spent a year with the Western Hurricanes Major Badham Club, and last season she played with the Rossay Netherwood School in the North America Prep Hockey Association. This year, Madison 16 is playing for the Boston Junior Eagles Hockey Club and attends St. Paul's Prep School in New Hampshire. Decisions she made in order to take her goaltending career to the next level. Mr. Speaker, I would ask that you and all members of this House of Assembly please join me in congratulating Madison Beck on making Team Atlantic for the Under-18 Canadians Women Hockey Championship.
The honourable member for Cape Breton-Richmond.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize a very special young man in the constituency of Cape Breton-Richmond. Kerry Clennon of Arishat is an active member of his community through his attendance at local dances, bingos, craft markets, festivals, concerts, and many other events. Kerry is a resident of the Almadam Small Options Home. He trains 3 to 4 times per week while working 2 jobs. Mr. Speaker, for over 30 years, Kerry has competed as a track and field athlete in Special Olympics, and he has competed regionally and provincially. In 2017, Kerry was named to represent Nova Scotia at the National Special Olympics event in July 2018. Mr. Speaker, the staff of the Almadam Small Options Home, his parents Ben and Claire, along with the entire community of Almadam, place our full support behind Kerry. In July, Kerry will take his place on a national stage, and I wish him great success.
The honourable member for Clayton Park West.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize a remarkable young man in my riding who's helping immigrants to share their stories of success. Ifani Amisa launched my Halifax experience in early 2016. The event planning, marketing, publishing brands aims to tell the stories of new immigrants who have found success in Halifax, while encouraging others to stay in the city to pursue their own dreams. Its quarterly magazine has featured many notable figures on its cover, including the Honourable Lena Diab, Osama Nasrallah, Talib Abed Ali, and Anne Devine. My Halifax experience recently hosted an awards gala to honour 25 immigrants from the Maritimes who have become trailblazers in their community. Ifani describes his company as a dream come true. As an immigrant to Halifax himself, he dreamt of becoming a savvy businessman and an entrepreneur. I'm proud to say that he has certainly made that happen. Thank you.
Just like to remind the honourable member not to mention other members of this assembly by name. The honourable member for Cumberland North.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize Heather Janes Peterson of Spring Street Academy. She brainstormed with her staff to create the Peaceful Playground Initiative. This was put in place for students of various ages and interests to provide alternative activities during recess. The project is intended to reduce conflict and office referrals. As well, it was for children who were missing the opportunity to have fun in a positive and productive way. Because of this innovative initiative, students are returning to class calmer and ready to learn. They are also showing improved behaviour in the cafeteria. It is encouraging to see people like Heather implement new strategies to help our children learn and grow. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Halifax-Armdale.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to inform the members that in commemoration of the International Day of the Francophonie, which this year happens to be March 20th, a special ceremony is being held. À l'occasion de la Journée internationale de la francophonie, l'Alliance française Halifax décerne un prix d'excellence à des étudiants de français inscrits au prix des universités de la ville de Halifax. Le Consulat général de France dans les provinces atlantiques avec l'ambassade se joint aussi à cet événement et offre un prix qui prend la forme d'un séjour linguistique au Francoforum. This has been held at Dalhousie University this year, so thank you very much.
Order, please. I'd like to remind the honourable member, member statements are not to be used for items falling under ministers' portfolios. The honourable member for Glace Bay.
No. Go ahead.
The honourable member for Cole Harbour Eastern Passage.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to acknowledge the Cole Harbour Parks and Trails Association. Over the years, the wardens and volunteers who monitor and tend our trails have spent hundreds of hours cleaning up debris that was washed up on shore with high winds, trees that were downed and blocking thoroughfares, and garbage left behind by park and trail users. The Jersey Jack Trail, Shearwater Trail, Saltmarsh Trail, and Forest Hills Trail all required trees to be removed to ensure safety of all who traveled the trails. Members of the association, along with 30+ volunteers, banded together for a cleanup this past weekend to clean up an amazing amount of debris that had washed up because of the storms. I want to thank every one of them who was involved in keeping our community trails and parks area clean and safe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Bedford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to tell you about a Bedford resident who is on a roll. Debbie Morgan is a competitive wheelchair curler. She's the lead with Team Hubli Bolivar, which curls out of the Lakeshore Curling Club in Lower Sackville. In February, the team won the 2018 Harding Medical Wheelchair Curling Championships, which gives them the right to represent Nova Scotia at the National Wheelchair Curling Championships. Debbie and her teammates, Keith Williams, Terry Cousineau, Trendle Hubli Bolivar, and Coach Bill Fletcher, will head out to Alberta in late March for the Nationals. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to wish Debbie Morgan and Team Hubli Bolivar a clean sweep in their upcoming ends in Leduc, Alberta. Hurry hard, Mr. Speaker, hurry hard.
The honourable member for Glace Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That concludes the government's business for today. We'll meet again tomorrow, Tuesday, March 6th, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 11:59 p.m. Following the daily routine in QP, the House will dissolve itself into the Committee of the Whole House on bills to consider Bill 72, the Education Reform Act. And with time permitting, we will move to the second reading of Bill 76, the Mineral Resources Act.
Motion is for the House to adjourn to rise tomorrow morning, Tuesday, March the 6th at 10 a.m. Would all those in favour of the motion please say aye. Contrary minded, nay. The motion is carried. The House now stands adjourned until tomorrow, Tuesday, March 6th at 10 a.m.